Happy New Year and welcome to the Big D Breakdown. I'm your host as always, Larry Lease. Today we're diving into all the latest news coming out of the Dallas Cowboys. Before we do that, give me your thoughts on the Cowboys season in the comment section below. And with that, let's dive right in. So Jerry Jones has flamed a $92 million Cowboy star after a brutal 2025 season. The Cowboys will have to perform some gymnastics to get cap compliant in 2026, but the idea that they won't have much cap space to work with in the offseason simply isn't true. Having said that, Jerry Jones has seen several big contract extensions blow up in his face. The Cowboys bit the bullet by releasing Trayvon Diggs just 3 years after signing him to a $97.5 million extension, and there's already mounting speculation that an $83.5 million right tackle Terrence Steele could be next. The Cowboys are hopeful that cornerback Daron Bland isn't heading down a similar path. Bland had a really disappointing season after signing a 4-year, $92 million extension back in August, and now he's set to undergo his second foot surgery in as many years. Jones was asked about his level of concern with Bland after Wednesday's end-of-season press conference, and he didn't pull any punches, saying, quote, "I'm not a doctor, but I don't like that at all. I don't like the sound of that. You have to watch feet relative to the future. The hope is that Bland will be fully healthy in 2026. After it was discovered that he needed surgery, he admitted that the foot had been bothering him for most of the year. That might explain why Bland's performance left a lot to be desired. That and the fact that not a single player improved under Matt Eberflus. That wasn't the only shot Jones took at the $92 million cornerback in lamenting letting Jordan Lewis leave last season. Jones admitted that Bland wasn't up to the task of replacing Lewis, saying, quote, "The number one thing was we thought when we lost our nickel last year, we could Bland in and out and get him going back and forth. He wasn't quite as suited to getting inside and being a nickel as we thought he would be. A little harsh coming from an 83-year-old owner. For starters, Bland hadn't played more than 105 snaps in the nickel since his rookie season in 2022. He was awesome in that role, filling in for the injured Lewis. The 2025 season, which was a much different story due to the state of the Cowboys' cornerback room. Bland played 200 snaps in the nickel compared to 441 on the outside per PFF. Reddy Stewart, who was brought in after roster cuts, led the defense with 348 nickel snaps. Not like Bland was the full-time nickel. For context, Lewis played 606 nickel snaps last year. The Cowboys could convert Daron Bland to a full-time nickel as soon as next season if they come out of the 2026 NFL draft with one of the top cornerbacks in the class. In that scenario, the rookie and Shavon Ravel Jr. would start on the outside with Bland kicking inside. Bland's skill set is best suited to play more in the nickel. The hope is that a clean bill of health, more positional stability, and a competent defensive coordinator will lead to improved play from the former All-Pro. Jones isn't wrong to want more from his star cornerback, but a lot of variables were at play that contributed to his disappointing year. The Cowboys are ready to do some dramatic things in the offseason. Finances are no object. Do you think the Cowboys will really do anything significant this offseason? Let me know. The Dallas Cowboys, like I mentioned, had their season-ending conference the other day, and there was quite a bit of information that may need to be sifted through based on things Jones and company have said. One such thing was the owner general manager mentioning about the organization being ready to do some, quote, dramatic things in the offseason, and that, quote, finances are no object. Saying, quote, "We want to get out here and do better than we did this year. There's the incentive to, dare I say it, bust the budget to try to get something done now. Yes. We'll do some dramatic things. That was a dramatic thing we did, trading Micah Parsons. We didn't do it not to win games. The point is, this calls for some pretty controversial decisions. We're going to keep this thing as good as we possibly can. Finances are no object. We're going to make it as entertaining as we can and keep it as lively as we can for everybody." Jerry Jones certainly sounds as if the Cowboys will be more proactive this offseason, whether it's in free agency, the draft, or even making more trades. It also sounds as if the organization may not be bargain bin shoppers like they've been in the past several years. But that's all speculation right now. If the Cowboys are indeed preparing to be more proactive in free agency and willing to open up the checkbook, They could open up $147 million in salary cap space. That's plenty of money to work with to re-sign priority free agents such as George Pickens, Javonte Williams, as well as any other free agents they may want to go after. Making more trades could be another dramatic thing that Cowboys could be considering. They made a number of them last year with different degrees of success and failure, and could be considering tapping into that resource once again. Perhaps going after Max Crosby? Again, nothing more than speculation at this point. The good news is, it sounds as if the Cowboys have finally seen the error of their ways and are going to attempt to be more proactive by bringing in more outside help than they have in the past. Hopefully the days of depending on sorting through the bargain bin are over, and the days of being aggressive in free agency are underway. Only time will tell how all this incident playing out. After all, we heard we were going to go all in just a few years ago. And with the news of the Matt Eberflus firing, we're going to take a look at 5 replacements who could instantly fix the Cowboys defense. There is arguably no more important move that Cowboys will make in the entire 2026 offseason than who they hire as their next defensive coordinator. Now that the team has officially moved on from Matt Eberflus in the role, and other teams have started making coaching moves as well, the dreaming of top targets to fill can commence. The Cowboys had one of the worst defenses in the NFL this past year, and part of that was the fault of Jerry Jones. Although Eberflus ended up being the scapegoat, the presence of someone like, a Micah Parsons type of player could have made a world of difference for this unit. But there's no time to cry over spilled milk in Dallas. The next defensive coordinator has a chance to come in and make a huge impression if they can turn this unit around in short order. So who are the top candidates to come in and do exactly that? Well, number 1, we got to take a look at the former Cardinals head coach, Jonathan Gannon. Gannon is a very familiar name to the Cowboys fan base, and for a variety of reasons. One of the few wins his Cardinals team got this past year was against Dallas. But Gannon spent years with the Eagles running their defense under Nick Sirianni. He knows the division well, and the opportunity to come and call the shots for the Cowboys defense could be his fast track to another head coaching opportunity. Gannon was an outstanding coordinator for the Eagles and did such a great job with talent development and getting after the quarterback while he was there. He has a great ability to maximize talent, which he did defensively in Arizona despite the team's overall struggles. Number 2, Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator. The Vikings are likely working to extend Brian Flores as we speak, but he is currently one of the top free agent defensive coordinators out there. I think he could put him right up there with Jonathan Gannon as a top flight candidate for the Cowboys, and someone who would be an A+ hire if they can get him. Flores' defenses with the Vikings have been incredible, and he's been able to get the most out of these units while lacking talent at the cornerback position. Flores is one of the most aggressive defensive coordinators in the NFL, and that type of aggressive nature gives his players so much confidence. The Vikings ranked 7th in points allowed this season and 5th in points allowed last year. It doesn't get much better than that. Number 3, former Falcons head coach Raheem Morris. Morris has long been considered one of the most respected coaches in the entire league. There's a reason why he's been so involved with so many good teams, both as offensive coach and defensive coordinator. This guy knows what he's doing out there. The Falcons hired Morris to be their head coach after a 3-year stint he had with the LA Rams as their defensive coordinator. Of course, the Rams have had one of the best defenses in the NFL for years, even amidst a retooling of the roster following the 2021 season. Morris was able to help in the development of some core pieces on that roster before he left for Atlanta. If Brian Schottenheimer wants a head coach of the defense, he's got 3 really great options right now. And number 4, Jeff Ulbrich, former Falcons defensive coordinator. Remember when the Jets had one of the best defenses in the league? They were 4th in points allowed in 2022 and 12th in points allowed in 2023. And the man responsible for those units was Jeff Ulbrich. Of course, Robert Saleh had something to do with it as well, but we saw Ulbrich help turn around a Falcons defense this year in what has to be considered one of the most underrated and impressive coaching efforts of the year. Their points allowed per game decreased considerably, but the way Ulbrich was able to resurrect the pass rush in Atlanta was his finest work. He has a track record building right now and would be a fine candidate for the Cowboys. And number 5, Jim Leonhard, Broncos defensive back coach and pass game coordinator. Many NFL fans remember Jim Leonhard from his playing days as as well as his time as a defensive coordinator at Wisconsin. He was once considered one of the hottest head coach candidates at the college level, but an injury forced him to take a minor role on Brett, I'm going to butcher his name, Bielema's staff a handful of years ago before he made the jump up to the pros to work for Sean Payton and the Broncos. With Vance Joseph interviewing for head coach vacancies around the league, Leonard will likely get a blank check to return to Denver as their defensive coordinator to keep continuity. However, if Joseph stays in Denver, Leonard might want to take a job like the one Dallas has available. He's a defensive back specialist, but has future head coach qualities, and he's called defense before, but will certainly be ready for a full-time defensive coordinator position in 2026. Our next topic, former Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett is interviewing for the Titans job. The NFL coaching cycle is rocking and rolling, and Tuesday evening saw it take an even more eventful turn as the Ravens fired John Harbaugh, which is some pretty wild stuff. Way back in the middle of the season, the Titans became the first team to be in the market for a head coach this cycle as they fired Brian Callahan. There's been word that Tennessee could look to hire former Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. But as of this writing, he's not officially been named as an interviewee. One former Cowboys coach did emerge as someone who will interview, and it was not McCarthy. ESPN has reported on Tuesday evening that Jason Garrett is set to interview for the job. Garrett has been part of NBC's television coverage of the NFL in recent years and hasn't coached since he was the offensive coordinator for the Giants during the 2020 season, the first after Dallas moved on from him. He notably spent almost a decade as the Cowboys head coach and over a decade with the organization. Overall, from a coaching perspective, he played for the team as well. The Cowboys host the Titans in 2026, so would face Jason Garrett if he got the job. Finally, the Dallas Cowboys did not wait long when reviewing which members of their coaching staff should be retained for the 2026 season, as they quickly fired defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus after his team ranked near the bottom in many key categories. Dallas's offense was much better than a unit on a 7-9-1 team should be. On paper, the hire made a ton of sense. The recently deposed head coach of the Chicago Bears had some very strong defenses during his tenure in charge, and his work as defensive coordinator with the Colts was exemplary enough to lead him to getting a head coaching job. While this hire didn't work out, that may not be enough to stop Jerry Jones from using that same process to bring in a coach who is well regarded around the league for his defensive acumen despite his struggles in 2025. Now, while we mentioned that Jonathan Gannon could be a hire, the Cardinals fired Gannon after a 3-14 campaign in 2025, and his defensive potential may be high, but Jones needs to realize that the potential for Gannon to replicate all of Eberflus's struggles to a T is pretty high. So he does actually need to pass on him. Gannon and the Cardinals started the season 2-0, and the defense looked like one of the better units in the league, but things soon cratered back to a point of brutality after Arizona lost 14 of their final 15 games. The only win naturally came against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Unlike Eberflus, who fired defensive coordinator Alan Williams and was essentially running the unit as his own in Chicago, Gannon delegated a ton of responsibility to young wonderkin Nick Rallis. While it seemed likely that Rallis will get a job at some point in the coming days, Gannon may not be afforded the same luxury. Fans will have to go back to his Eagles defensive coordinator's day in 2022 to find a defense that Gannon both coordinated primarily and had performing at an above-average level. While not as committed to heavy zone coverage as Eberflus, Gannon's playbook isn't going to look that dissimilar. Jerry Jones does like hiring former head coaches to assistant coach roles, Mike Zimmer, Dan Quinn, and Gannon does have some familiarity with Cowboys offensive coordinator Clayton Adams from their time in Arizona, but this team needs some new blood, not another failed coach trying to get back on track. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on the topics we covered, and who would you pick for the next defensive coordinator? Let me know. And are there any free agents you would take? Let me know in the comment section below. And of course, give us a thumbs up if you like a video. Hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.